evening. Hello and welcome to this edition of the Startup Central. I'm Nanta Arai, working from home. This is the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated, of course, to startups, innovation, technology, disruption, entrepreneurship. Basically, if it's under the gambit of the new economy, it's here every weekday on your favorite channel at 6 p.m. Now, with that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick reminder, like all the stakeholders that we get on this show, Team Startup Central thrives on constructive criticism. We want to hear from you on how to improve this show. If you don't tell us, who's going to tell us? How we should be doing things differently, what we should be adding to this show, mixing it up. We want to keep hearing from you. Our email address right on top, suc@etnow.tv. Here's a promised interview. It's with the co-founder of Signal. He's the executive chairman, Brian Acton. Now, Brian Acton has also co-founded WhatsApp. WhatsApp had been sold to Facebook, but Brian left Facebook with and lost about $850 million in the process. This after a fight with Mark Zuckerberg over privacy issues, and he had also spearheaded the Delete Facebook movement. He came back with Signal, which is a non-profit organization. Here is a global exclusive. It's with the founder of Signal. We have a very special guest with us today. He co-founded WhatsApp, then left the Facebook group after selling it over disagreements with the policy for monetization, and now is the big boss at Signal, where you've seen so much action take place since Facebook decided to change the privacy terms at WhatsApp. Yes, my guest is Brian Acton. Brian, thank you so much for talking to us here at ET Now. If I could say it, you're the man of the week. Signal seems to be the app of the week ever since Facebook decided to change its privacy terms as far as WhatsApp goes. You're seeing this huge movement to migrate to Signal, the likes of Elon Musk talking about it. Edward Snowden has always been saying it's his favorite instant messaging service. If I could begin this interview by asking you what the last couple of days have been like. On Twitter, of course, Signal has been saying how it's becoming the #1 downloaded app across Play Stores in so many countries.
Well, I think I would start and say that we have been getting very little sleep over the last 3-4 days. It's been quite an amazing amount of attention. We are humbled to get so much love from the world at large about our product. We hope to continue the momentum and see where it leads us.
You know, Brian, one of the reasons you left Facebook group, or should I say the only reason, was because of this disagreement as far as possible monetization for WhatsApp goes. And that's exactly what now seems to be coming back to haunt WhatsApp and the Facebook group. So I want to begin by asking you, when you left and you decided to set up Signal, it was done as a non-profit organization, but your vision, your dream, is it sustainable to stay as a non-profitable organization? How will you scale up without the big bucks behind you?
Well, if you're smart and you engineer well, what you understand and realize is that it doesn't cost as much money to run and operate a service as you might think. With good engineering, you can run a service for millions, tens of millions, billions of users with a small budget, and so it's easier to run a nonprofit organization that is sustained by donations and grants from all sources. We will continue to build that product that people want to give money to. If you look at Wikipedia, it's a fantastic example of a donation-supported organization and service. And we talk to Wikipedia a lot. We share notes. They sort of exemplify what is good about the internet. A community can build something that doesn't have commercial goals, and it doesn't have profit motives. And it just focuses on building a great product and a great service for the world.
So the last couple of days, when you've seen this whole movement to migrate to Signal, I'm not sure it's being followed up by also deleting WhatsApp, but at least people are now downloading Signal if they weren't doing so already. Can you share with us any data on the last couple of days, what it's been like?
Well, we don't have specific, registration numbers that I can provide today. What I can say is that, on iOS, on iPhones, we're number one in like 40 countries. On Google Android, we're number one in like 18 countries. You can go and you can see that, the number of downloads on the Play Store, we're over 10 million downloads. So, obviously people are downloading, installing, trying out Signal, learning about privacy and having the conversations of privacy. That's the important part. And that people are learning and understanding that there are alternatives to what they're used to. And the alternatives can be good. The alternatives can even be better. And that's ultimately what we strive to be at Signal, better.
Brian Acton, you left Facebook with $87 million on the table. You walked the talk. You were serious about users having privacy. It was all to do with monetization of WhatsApp, what it could be. You have already put out a tweet, rather Signal has already put out a tweet a few days ago saying you will never sell ads, you will never sell users' data. As the man behind Signal, do you want to explain to our viewers in India on why Signal is safer, how it works, how it's different from WhatsApp?
Signal, because of its structure as a nonprofit organization, makes sure that no one can benefit from the sale of it. And so there's really no reason to ever sell Signal. There's no reason to put ads into it. The rules in the United States about nonprofits stipulate that. Otherwise, you get in trouble and you get thrown in jail, right? So by being set up as a nonprofit organization, we can make those guarantees and we can make those promises much better. When you're a for-profit company, you can make promises, but those promises only last as long as you are there, right? But in a nonprofit organization, you can encode that into the bylaws of the organization and make sure that it's ensconced and it will never come true.
And what were the big lessons that you learned from WhatsApp so that you could improve the next instant messaging service, which is, of course, Signal?
I think the lessons that we learned at WhatsApp are pretty straightforward. That you cannot take an America first approach. You have to take a global first approach in building product. You have to be aware of the cultures, the diversities, the differences of the world, and embrace them instead of excluding them. India is a wonderful example. I mean, wonderful because there's so many languages, such diverse cultures. There's diverse food. And so you learn so much by making sure that you build for a country like India, and because if you can build for India, you can build for the world.
You can build for India, you can build for the world. And Brian, I'm going to take that forward as well and first ask you, what are the opportunities for Signal in India? I don't even know as a nonprofit if you look at as opportunities, but as a nonprofit, how much can you scale up? Right now, for example, WhatsApp has nearly 400 million users in India.
Certainly, WhatsApp is the dominant player in India. I'm not going to dispute that. I think that the opportunity here is to help educate and teach the people of India that privacy is important in how you're using apps and services on the internet. And, with Signal's privacy first approach, there's an opportunity to really educate Indian people and then also learn from Indian people what is important for them in terms of protecting their privacy. Different cultures have different stances on privacy. Different cultures have different attitudes. And so we learn in those conversations. I have a very good friend who lives in South India, in Erode, in Tamil Nadu, and he gives me feedback every day. He tells me what's good, what's bad. He gives me an Indian perspective that I could never have, sitting here in California. It's important.
So having said that, are you going to set up offices in India? You also put out a tweet, Signal put out a tweet saying, India, you did this, and you shared about how it had become the #1 downloaded app in India also on one of these days since the controversy broke out. I believe Signal is already in 15 languages in India. So what exactly are the plans?
Well, certainly I want to make sure that our product works very well in India in all ways, whether it's the interesting carrier networks, whether it's the different languages. I think you're right, we do localize to a number of different languages, but we could do more, right? I think that, because India is so diverse, we have to make sure that and India takes such pride in their local languages and their local cultures that we need to make sure that we embrace those as well. India is so important to us. I don't want to ever forget about that, I guess.
Okay. And so we will see Signal evolve with more languages, localize more languages here in the country. What else is it that can we expect? You said you can see that WhatsApp is, of course, the dominant instant messaging service, but what is the end game? Is it to replace WhatsApp? Are you just looking to be a second service, or to make people so educated that maybe Signal is better than WhatsApp? What's the idea?
I think at all times, you want to make sure that you're pushing yourselves to be leading in technology and privacy and in communication. And those are our core competencies. And that's what's important to us as we build out Signal. So what's interesting is with competition is you have innovation. Signal invents a new feature. WhatsApp may copy it. WhatsApp invents a new feature. Signal may copy it. Who benefits? You do, right? The users benefit from this competition. If you have a single dominant player like WhatsApp, what ends up happening is it becomes boring, it becomes ordinary, it becomes, every day, and the innovation stops. If you think about it, that's what happened to the telephone system that was built, in the early 1900s, right? And what is important is that, we can innovate in the Indian market. We can innovate with the help of the Indian people and collaborating with Indian users and learning from Indian users, taking their feedback, making the product better, and continuing to further the innovation.
So does Signal have some of the ambitions or that we've seen WhatsApp, for example, have? It has a payment option now. It has the payment service in India that's going live. It has a commerce feature, the shopping button. Is this the natural evolution for Signal as well?
I think right now we focus the most on your personal and private communications. Those are the communications that you have with your loved ones, your friends, your family. And I don't want to step away from that because I think that's a core use case and it's a core competency that's important to us. Any network, as it grows, seeks to increase the utility of that network. And so you may ask yourself, well, who else can I connect with? Is it another business? Is it another organization? How can I connect with those organizations in meaningful ways? That's very far away. It's not top of mind for us right now. What's top of mind for us is building and satisfying for individual users so that you can have that conversation with your parents and you can say, hey, Mom, you should use Signal because Signal protects you better, right? You should use Signal because it's safer, or you should use Signal because it has this feature, right? Signal is the best at this. Those are the types of conversations we want you to have with your parents, your grandparents, your children, and as you use Signal and Signal grows in India.
So can you, WhatsApp has put out a myth buster of sorts where it's saying that your conversations and your calls remain encrypted end to end. You do not share that data with anyone. It is secure. How true or false is that?
It's extraordinarily true for Signal. And what's important about us and our organization is that it's also verifiably true. You can look at our source code. Security researchers routinely look at our source code, and they can independently verify that we are 100% adhering to our promises to the outside world. And unfortunately, with other companies, you don't get that level of guarantee. You have to take their word for it. And people may make mistakes and sweep it under the rug. You never know. But with Signal, there's complete transparency in what we do with respect to the source code of our product. It's independently verifiable, and it helps to serve to prove to people that we live up to our promises.
Brian Acton, I know the entire team at Signal right now is perhaps dealing with the surge in traffic and just making sure it can be scaled up and the infrastructure is in place and all of that. But I've got to ask you one question, and this is a problem that WhatsApp also has faced and has not been able to come out with a proper solution. Or are you even thinking about this at all? Going forward, how will the spread of fake news, violent news, all of that be stopped on Signal? Or is that none of Signal's business?
Well, I think that over time, as people grow to understand that there is such a thing as misinformation, that they start to look at what they receive from their friends and colleagues with a more sort of a scrutiny and with a critical eye. I don't know if I don't think the technology organizations can solve all of the problems of misinformation. We have to do it in collaboration with our users and help educate users to be mindful of information that they may see online, to ensure that the information comes from trusted sources and verified sources, and really leverage the work of those trusted sources in their day-to-day lives. Signal can only do so much. The news organizations also need to be participating in the conversation, and users will grow and get educated and become more critical of the information they receive.
So so basically what you're saying, it perhaps is not the responsibility of the tech platform alone. Of course, society together has to become responsible about misinformation, but it's not the platform's responsibility for combating misinformation and fake news.
I think there are in the platforms, there are things that the platform can do, and there are things that the platform cannot do. And we as a group in a society need to understand the limitations of said platforms. Unfortunately, there are technology companies that overpromise and underdeliver. They say that we protect your children from bad stuff, and unfortunately, sometimes it sneaks its way in, and children see bad things. So, you have to be mindful of teaching your children that there's bad stuff on the internet, and teach your children to avoid the bad stuff on the internet. I'm a father, I have children, and I do this every day. I make sure that my children are careful online and, don't put too much information online, and use the internet in a responsible fashion, just like any other piece of technology.
I want to ask you something else which has been really hot, and then I want to get your views on it. Now, what if there are subpoenas from the government? What is Signal's policy? A, will you provide information to the governments? Do you even have choice on that front? And secondly, do you inform the users about that as well?
So what we did, there was a good precedent that we did we went through in 2016. We got a lawfully delivered subpoena. And we went through the process with the American law system in resolving this subpoena. And what it showed was that we virtually have no information to give people, law enforcement or any government body, that's of really any utility. You can go to our blog and read about it, but basically it was the person's phone number and when they registered that phone number in our service. It was very little data that we were able to actually produce. And so law enforcement understands that. And so, invariably, there's not a lot that we can do or provide in a lawful fashion. But of course, if we get a sort of lawfully delivered subpoena, we work to, work with government to resolve it. To the second part of your question, we also work to unseal any of those subpoenas and reveal that a subpoena was delivered to us, and make sure that we tell everyone, not just the person, that this was delivered to us and we had to produce something. And we did that in the 2016, and we continue to do that as need arises.
The other thing I have to ask you, what will you do if you figure out that certain users are using Signal for spreading hate, for spreading violence? Will you block them? What if it's being used by sexual predators to harass people or children? What if it's being used also for, let's say, just for advertising or business, those spam messages, marketing, all of that? What's going to be the policy for all of that?
I think in general, if people report that to us, we may redirect them to law enforcement. I think that law enforcement is in a much better position to track users, develop the techniques to enforce the laws of different parts of the world. Different parts of the world have different laws. We're not in a position where we can be the person to enforce the laws of India because we don't know the laws of India. And so, generally we redirect people to law enforcement and encourage law enforcement to follow up in those situations.
Brian Acton, before I let you go, I'm going to ask you my final question, which is that do you only use Signal, or are there other instant messaging services from around the world that you've tried which you think can match up at all? Like, for example, everybody's talking about WhatsApp versus Signal versus Telegram these days.
So in order to stay competitive, I absolutely use other messaging products. I want to make sure that I stay abreast of technology, and I want to make sure that we continue to make our product competitive. And so, yes, I do use other messaging products. I don't have a ton of them, but yes, I have some. Okay.
With that, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out to give us this interview. We really appreciate it. Wish you and the entire team of Signal all the very best.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, he's the man of the week, isn't he? Brian Acton co-founded Twitter, co-founded WhatsApp, and then sold it to Facebook, fell out with Mark Zuckerberg over the very issue that's now haunting Facebook, that is how it should be monetized, privacy concerns, went on to start Signal Foundation. Tell us what you thought of that interview. Write into us. Our email address, suc@etnow.tv.